I'm going to give you 3 reasons why Trump has a fiendish money-making ICE scheme that's going to get him possibly in trouble, in jail, and the rest of his people in jail, okay? You're going to listen to this whole video, and it's going to be something you never really heard about ICE, about what Trump's doing, and about who's investigating him, who's going to catch that ass. So you're going to love it. Get ready. First of all, let's talk about how it happened. This funding that happened is the fault of the Democrats. Chuck Schumer's bitch ass, Senator bitch ass Schumer, basically went for the first, remember the first shutdown that happened in 2025? And he got another 9 people, including Dick Cowardly Durbin, who's my senator, went in and funded ICE. Now, here's the problem. Renee Nicole Good is dead because of this. And nobody's holding Chuck Schumer accountable for it. Nobody's holding the senators, the Democratic senators, who didn't vote to at least get rid of Chuck Schumer as minority leader. Nobody stood up to say no because we knew the consequences. And nobody stood up and said anything. And that's the problem I have, a major problem. And you should have it too, and always remember that that happened. Now, going into these details, once they were funded, you had these major private companies coming in. See, Indivisible.org, who I totally support, you should all go follow them, Leah and Ezra Rock. They were trying to get people to boycott Spotify. And my problem with boycotting Spotify is this. Well, one, I like Spotify. I listen to Spotify. I'm guilty. But the reason I had a problem boycotting them wasn't because of that. It was partly because of that. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm too real. I am too real. I didn't want to boycott them. I didn't want to get rid of all my playlists and quit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be the one. Well, it was other things. No, that was it. However, I found a good reason not to. Because the problem is not Spotify. It's a whole bunch of people who are taking ad dollar money from ICE for their promotional campaigns. By the way, they stopped. But they didn't stop because the boycott won. They stopped because they knew it would be a bad PR press move because of Renee Nicole Good's killing. But here's the thing I want you to understand about this. Spotify ain't the only one, y'all. This whole scheme stretches with pretty much everybody. FedEx, UPS, Dell, AT&T, Comcast. If you got Infinity, which sucks, you basically are doing it. And then there are these subcontractor companies, General Dynamics and blah, blah, blah. These are companies nobody's really heard of in general in the regular public, but in the business world, yeah, I'm talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm going to get some water. So let me break down to you what's happening. They're getting contracting deals for cars, for ICE detention facilities, for logistics, beds and all sorts of shit that they got for people they're detaining for ICE or for ICE police that need, stuff, clothing and blah, 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 masks. They basically, it's gigantic, a gigantic thing. Well, where's the money-making scheme coming from? Obviously from the contracts. But that's what brings me to number 2. Who gets the contracts? Oh, boy. That was fast, too, how they got them contracts. They got them motherfuckers quick. Now, keep in mind, governors, I had a business where we were doing contracts, trying to get government contracts across the nation. Nothing like that, but really just janitorial service, simple stuff, right? And one of the things I discovered that before Trump, it was a very honest system. .gov is a very honest system. I'm not dogging out that system, but we know damn well Trump is a schemer. And here's how he schemes. I'm going to break out his schemes, and then I'm going to break out who's investigating, who's going to get him to jail. That's number 3, all right? So this is going to be a little long, but pay attention very carefully. His scheme is either cash, wire transfers, or crypto that are way away from anything to do with the government contracting. His family, his friends, his trusted people who are going in, they're going to jail. They're going to jail. And I'm going to tell you number 3. Why? Wait until I start dropping that. And then I'm going to start dropping some more bombshells. The whole idea works is that if somebody is getting money in the form of cash, that's why Tom Homan's in trouble, and they're trying to cover it up through the DOJ because he accepted $50,000 from undercover federal agents. He's going to jail. He's going to jail. Pam Bondi is too. But here's the thing I want you to understand. This is also why they're covering up Epstein. They're covering up the Epstein files because in those files aren't just Trump with teeny girls and celebrities and powerful people with teeny girls. It's the money, y'all. The bigger thing, bigger than sex trafficking, is the money. Let me give you a comparison. This is the Epstein files. The whole video is sex trafficking. Now let's take sex trafficking. Epstein files, sex trafficking, right? But this, if you take this and make it sex trafficking, money laundering is the whole video. So money laundering, sex trafficking, Epstein files. And within those files are financiers who move money around. And what kind of money? The kind of money that accepts banking transfers, cash transfers, and crypto stuff here and abroad, offshore banking, the whole nine. And what are they accepting it for? They're accepting it for, well, for favors in the government. And what does that mean? That means basically what they're doing is getting money over in these areas, making them disappear. You following me? And then, of course, look who just won a contract. Now, normally that doesn't work, ironically, before Trump, because there are specialists within the government whose whole job is to make sure that they follow the rules of getting the government contracted. But if you open your mouth now in the Trump era, it's your ass, your job, and you are out the door. So whatever the head nod is to make sure that who and who gets a contract better happen, or it's your ass. Now you say, man, this is some blatant grifting. Man, this is a horrible thing, Darren. How in the world can they get away with this? They're not. They're not. They're getting away for it. That's why I'm smiling. You see, here they are making all this money off of these ICE contracts. And the big companies aren't getting caught themselves, but it's the middleman. Remember I said the Epstein Society is involved with moving money? There are 3 groups in the Epstein Society. There's a total of 6, but there's basically 3 groups that are involved in this direct thing with ICE. The first one are the financiers, the banks, who are moving money around and they know it. I'm talking about Goldman, Chase, the whole nine. Law firms, the big ones that are coming in who are ruling things. They are killing it. They're showing up and kicking butt. And what they're doing is moving, making sure it's legal maneuvers where you're not catching them. But there's a third group, the fixers. The fixers are the ones that don't exist. They're the consultants. I often say, look at that movie Inside Man with Denzel and Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster's character was the fixer. Basically, they make the deal happen. They make sure that Trump's people know that the deal went down and everything went well, and that Trump awards through the government those things. Now, could it be big companies? Sure. But many times, it's the little bitty small companies. Here's what you need to pay attention to. It's not the big companies. And then I'm going to talk about who's looking at all this. You know, that's part 3, hanging in with me. But the big companies like Dell, they ain't got nothing to do with nothing. But they do have subcontractors and people they hire as consultants who make sure that something has something to do with something. And that they have reasonably written them off in case anything goes down. So they've signed papers saying I'm acting solely on my such and such. They go out and they make these moves, and they're connected to the fixers. The fixers connected to the bag man. The bag man's connected to the consultants. The consultants connected to Dell, and then they sign off in case anything goes wrong. So they basically get Dell, who gets this consultant. This consultant talks between the lines. He or she signed off, or they signed off on paper saying, we're going to work to get you this contract, ambiguously. And they didn't say that, but it was said. It's on the table. And then they go after the fixer, and the fixer is the one connected to all the lawyers, the financiers. And where does the Epstein stuff come in? Some of them are dealing with pedo, but it's not even about the pedo. The bigger picture of pedo is that they are liquidly moving money around for whether it be pedophile, drugs, guns, whatever. And what I'm trying to tell you is the same operators dealing with that illegal, crazy black market stuff and the gray market stuff are in the white market, just like this. They come in, we got a contract from Dell, and we're trying to get more jobs through all of this stuff going through with the consulting that's happening. And they already have relationships through their lobbies. I ain't saying nothing about the lobbies. Oh my God. Between that connection and the fixers, very quickly this can happen because relationships are already there. The same relationships that Trump is protecting over in Epstein society. And what I'm saying is some of these people in these Epstein societies, they ain't got nothing to do with the pedophile, the kids, and the sex trafficking. They got everything to do with the money and the money laundering. Remember, Epstein files, whole picture sex trafficking. Sex trafficking, whole video is money laundering, is the money. The money's the biggest thing. They protecting them little girls. They protecting them little boy lovers as much as they're protecting the money. Now, here's a situation where these contracts get moved very quickly between the Dell, the subcontractor, the consultant, the fixer consultant, and the legal and financial means to move the money around to make sure that Trump's people, family members, connected, trusted people, advisors, get the money. The money goes somewhere, but nobody knows where the money goes, except for the fixer and the subcontractor that help out Dell. They get their piece. Dell gets a big, gigantic piece. And the people who are lawyers and financiers are getting their piece. And that's how these big deals happen, to provide whatever for ICE. And that seems horrible. The meme coin part, I'll point to you and say this. They put money in the meme coin, and then Trump family and whoever's in charge of that does loans, 80, 90% against their assets. That's how wealthy people live, y'all. That's why you can't tax the rich, because the rich is broke. Elon's broke on paper. Bezos broke on paper. Mark Zuckerberg's broke on paper. They own and control entities and trust to run everything. And what happens is they get low interest loans, and loans sometimes that are paid back through their accrual because they got stocks and stuff. The accrual can pay the loan back. But many times, if it's not that, at least the cash flow will pay it. Between the cash flow and that, they can pay it. Well, why are they doing it that way? Because businesses in general, even small businesses, are taxed via net, not gross. That means when you get $100,000, you're getting taxed at least 37% or more. But when they get $100,000, they only get taxed what's left after their expenses. So here they are in an advantage because you're not taxing the rich. You're trying to tax the richest entities, but that's very hard. So these guys move money, and it's bigger than Trump. They've just been doing it. They move this money, and what they can do with an asset like a building or even a meme coin is loan via the bank 80, 90% of it and pay it back via their company's cash flow. Trump's got buildings, he's got all sorts of selling guitars. That's why he's licensing his name. He's making a fortune to pay off his loans. But why are they loaning the money? Because it's tax-free. Loans are tax-free, or very low tax at the most. So they get this loan that they can live off of or reinvest. It's called buy, borrow, die. You put your stuff in trust, so when you die, it doesn't get hit with taxes. And you buy it, and you borrow against it. And if it's an asset, it's going to accrue and become more valuable, so you can refinance forever off of tax-free money. But if they take it as a capital gains, as earnings, they got to pay taxes on it. But if they take it as a loan, they do not. Now, why am I explaining all of this to you? Because what he's doing, other than the cash, other than this wire transfer stuff that they move around, okay? Other than the financial tricks that are happening there. And it's happening among the same planes that have the little teeny girls and boys and whatever. But it's a money laundering. Like I said, Epstein list, sex trafficking, and the whole darn picture, money laundering. They're getting hundreds of billions to these meme coins, loaning them out through 80, 90%, getting 100% tax-free, because when some Saudi billionaire puts money into that meme coin, they get to loan against it, and they have the money. Boom. Same thing with, again, big company like Dell. I have no proof of this. I want to say that for record. You know what I'm saying. They basically, Saudi, that's the only reason I talk about it, because there's nothing. There's no trail from me. I just figured it out. I figured out the numbers. I worked in entertainment and marketing for many, many years for very famous people. And I'm telling you. So here's what happens. Let me break it down to you. Dell gets a contract, or a major company gets a contract. They have subcontractors helping them get that contract. They got fixers who work with the subcontractors. And then they got the fixers who are connected to lawyers and financiers. And so some money gets to this side of the room with the Trumpers, and they pay the money off. They pay off the money via, again, cash, wire, or meme coin, or a variety of that. They loan against the meme coin, so they don't pull any money out the meme coin. They just loan against the asset, like you would a building. And they end up financing this whole operation. Dell gets billions of dollars. The subcontractor gets their money. The fixers get their money. The lawyers and financiers get their money. And the people who have the influence in the government of Trump get their money. But they get it where they can loan it out. It's wire transfers, it's banking, and it's money. And those people who do all this shit are in those files. Now, some of which, yeah, for Beto, but the majority of them, it's about the money that he's protecting. He's protecting the society. And it's a whole scheme that goes in there. Now, for the rest of this time, I'm going to tell you some groups of people looking at this. The first one is, I believe that the next president is going to be Kamala Harris. And if she gets in there, she's putting all of them in jail. Everybody would say, well, Newsom will put him in jail. Yeah, he don't have this broke down like she does. She's on a whole nother level. Her career was finding these people, and she knows all the people who can find these people. She, as president, could get Letitia James and Jack Smith, which those are people who will be coming back. They're going to track them down. And by the way, there have been people following the money anyway. Everything I just said to you, they've been following the money. People in social media have been hitting me up left and right for the last year about them following the money. And who's they? Well, it's not Kamala Harris. It's not Letitia James. It's not Jack Smith. It's not any of the attorney generals who've been fighting this, 20-plus Democratic attorney generals. It's the thousands of investigators who are either retired, took the buyout last year, the buyout, or they're actually working within the intelligence agencies. Which agencies? NSA, FBI, CIA, and a bunch of three-letter organizations y'all ain't never heard of are watching them like a fucking hawk. And those of you who want it to happen now, it ain't happening now. Sorry, get over that shit. It's not. Because they can't. Who they going to present it to? Pam Bondi so bad, they're ready to put her in jail and impeach her. Okay? She ain't telling nobody shit. She ain't doing that. She ain't doing that. So who's the deal? Who's going to make this happen? Who's going to do this? Well, getting into office, Democrats, for November this year, November 2028, they're going after them. It's going to be like Nuremberg meets the Spanish Inquisition. They're getting in trouble. And Trump's going to get in trouble early because I believe this Epstein file shit is going to kick his ass out possibly this year. If he lives, because you look like he only got 5 to 7 months at the rate he's going. But the reason I'm bringing that up right now is so important is that if he's out of office, no more immunity and the grifting comes after you, starting with Letitia James now. And then as we go into 2028, it's going to be even more because Jack Smith is coming back. And if Kamala Harris becomes president, I know a lot of you, a woman can't become president. Okay, whatever, fuck you forever. Here, get over that shit. It's happening. Point is, when all this shit is going down, even if, let's say, she don't want to run and little bitty Gavin Newsom want to go in, yeah, he's going to go after him. Not the same way Letitia can. I mean, not the same way that Kamala can, but he's going to go after him. I want you to understand that this whole buildup has investigators. There's a history behind it. It is tied into Epstein, and we're going to find out what's up in them files. Hang tight. Stay strong. We're going to make it. But understand this. It's not based off of just faith. It's based off of facts. Hey, binge watch the next, 10, 20 of my videos. The last 10, 20 videos. You'll love it. Because I keep going through this and breaking down the stuff you're not going to feel. And you're not going to hear anywhere else.